one-on-one. They've left us handy. It looks good.
How you doing, Brad Spurlock?
Will Kelstrom, nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you, sir.
Andrew Curry.
Andrew, pleasure to meet you guys. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good deal.
That was with Mark. Oh, okay.
Hey guys,
Good morning.
I'm Tim.
Will Kelstrom, nice to meet you.
Will. Pleasure.
Andrew Curry.
Adrian?
Andrew.
Andrew, nice to meet you. I'm Tim. There, you're looking well. Everybody. Here, yeah. I didn't know we were taking roll. Yes, I'm here.
Probably turn it on. So our Public Works Director, James Clark,
Here.
City Planner, Brad Spurlock,
Here.
and our Police Chief, Corey Jennison.
Here.
Okay. Seeking approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Got roll call, which Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to conduct interviews for the city attorney position, and public comment will not be accepted at this time. We will go ahead and get started. We have our interview questions, and if you want, we'll just go ahead and go down the row Brad, if you want to start.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here and appreciate your time. A couple of questions I have for Freedom of Information Act and records. What do you have for the city to ensure its compliance with any type of FOIA request? And secondly, how do you ensure that compliance with Arkansas Freedom of Information requirements?
We do not presently have any clients that require Freedom of Information Act responsiveness, so we would be developing a plan for being ready for those types of requests. In our minds, I'm primarily responsible for litigation matters. Mr. Kellstrom would be primarily responsible for municipal-centered work like ordinance drafting, planning matters. I would imagine that Freedom of Information Act request would have to be something that our entire firm is responsive on. It'd have to be assigned to get to it the fastest to make sure our partner, Jennifer Gray, the office more than anybody I know in our profession, so I would assume that she would probably take primary responsibility for that. As far as security, our network security is sourcing for that. Applications and file storage on the requirements of our professional conduct rules. That would be something that we have to deal with as we go. We have to develop that plan on.
Now, was that question directed at how are we going to ensure that we're meeting those FOIA requests, or how we're going to ensure that the city is compliant?
I think we look at it, make sure that we stay on our task, and then maybe what advice that you guys can give to us going forward to ensure that we're being compliant with the Arkansas Freedom. Yep, that's right.
So, I mean, I think first off, I don't know if you guys have FOIA handbooks available within the office. I think that obviously having those readily available in the office, making sure everyone has one, and then really just education, making sure that everybody understands what files have to be kept and what must be disclosed, and just having a policy and educating city staff on how FOIA works.
Okay.
I do think a lot of that would depend on where you've been so far. I don't know people who have positions that might be the initial contact for a request that would technically fall under. I don't know how much training they've had. I don't know what information. I would suggest regular audits of that sort of training to make sure that there aren't people in positions who don't have that training. And this may be a good opportunity for that sort of investigation, just to make sure we know what we're.
Okay. Thank you.
I have to take this one again since it says.
Okay, yeah.
That work? Okay. Part of planning and zoning questions that we have here to ask. We're going to have some challenges as far as rapid growth. And what advice would you have for the city council on to handle the growth that Tontitown has? Also, how do you advise planning and zoning issues, including land use disputes?
Well, so I personally believe that zoning codes should undergo annual or every so often review to make sure that it's adequately addressing the growth. I think our role in that is to make sure that those zoning codes are legal, enforceable, easy to read, and would stand up to a challenge. And I think that I would leave, what they actually say substantively, probably to you, Mr. Spurlock, being the planner. But certainly we would make sure that they're, being written correctly and in a way that could hold up to legal challenge. In terms of zoning disputes, zoning disputes under Arkansas law for cities are very easily winnable lawsuits. And so what we would be doing, what I would consider to be a core component of our job if we were hired for this position, is to make sure that when zoning decisions are being made in meetings, that they're being made in such a way that's easily defensible. And so long as you use kind of a standard list of reasons for denying a zoning decision, then there really are pretty easy for a city to win. The standard is whether the decision was arbitrary and capricious, essentially. So really any sound logical reason will hold up to that.
Okay. Thank you.
What is your approach to representing the city in code enforcement issues or disputes with residents and or businesses?
So, obviously, those sorts of issues are primarily complaint driven. So when you get it primarily because somebody's complained. And so I think we would have to rely on your direction for how aggressive to be with what attorney work has to be done. I think, I've done a fair amount of enforcement work for the county on a conflict basis when had a conflict. More aggressive than I would have expected, but that was because that was what the county needed at that. I think that's more of a responsive issue. Strategy perspective, I think it's case by case basis. You just have to.
Do you have any experience prosecuting municipal code violations or somebody?
No, we have nobody in the office that has prosecution experience on that. We have a lot of defense experience on that. Civil enforcement at the county level is.
To add to that, I did put this in the statement of qualifications. We are generally on the other side. Like Andrew said, we've certainly defended a lot of code enforcement violations. I've certainly gone out and sought a lot of land use matters, seeking to get them approved. And one of the reasons that we don't have any experience from the other side is simply just the fact that we're usually representing the defense side, or the side that's looking for the side that's looking for the land use approval or permit or whatever it may be. It's difficult for me to, for example, to come sit on Tuesday night every single Tuesday if I'm supposed to be in Bentonville or Fayetteville at the same time. And for, on the code enforcement side, it's difficult to represent cities if you're conflicted out of doing so. So,
Well, I understand that that is a benefit of you doing the other side.
Certainly, as we have
because you would be able to see what was going on.
yes, certainly. We have a ton of municipal experience. It's just from the private side, not the public side.
Understood.
And I think in response to your most previous question, Will's in every city council chambers in Northwest Arkansas. And I'm not a big fan saying we ought to do this because Rogers did this, or we ought to do this because Bentonville. But we see a lot of whatever other towns are doing right and what they're doing wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think not so much what they're doing right, but what they're doing wrong can be useful to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which leads us right into meetings. Are you able to be at both the COW, which is the committee of the whole meeting, which we have meetings on Tuesdays. The first meeting of the first Tuesday of the month is the COW. We do not have anything on the second Tuesday. The third Tuesday is our city council. So it would be the first and the third Tuesdays. Would you be able to be at both of those meetings?
Someone would be at both of those meetings.
Someone would be at both meetings.
That almost all of them would be me.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kellstrom will have planning matters that he's got to attend to.
Our planning meetings are the fourth Tuesday.
So I would expect that I will be here almost every Tuesday. I do, just for full disclosure, and I know you're not asking this question, but I do have small children. So if something came up and I had some sort of emergency, we have 3 associates who know we're here today and are eager to learn this kind of work, and 2 of them are hyper qualified for this kind of work already. So
That was going to be my next question. If you're on vacation or not going to be able, you would have someone from your office able to be here.
yes, and I would, if we take this on, vacations would be planned around that schedule. We would not be missing for vacation. Only reason somebody other than one of the 2 of us would be here would be.
And there's certainly going to be Tuesdays when I don't
See,
have
you
something
have to have
else.
a vacation.
Yeah.
That is,
There will certainly be some Tuesdays where I don't have a planning matter and may, just come in to relieve Andrew. I'm in the habit of having late Tuesdays, so.
all right. How do you handle legal questions during the meetings?
So my experience with that has been primarily the Benton County Planning Board. I have tried to give legal advice when legal advice is requested, rather than interjecting and providing legal advice when I'm not asked. I think if you provide legal advice.
So what if we did the wrong thing? Would you stop us and correct us?
A procedurally wrong thing,
Yes,
yes.
perfect.
I think if we have done something that I think might not stand up to judicial scrutiny, I don't think it would necessarily be prior to whoever's been wrong.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
I think that's legal advice that's better suited for. But yeah, in the meeting, procedural mistakes.
So, I think another thing to go off of that, as Andrew talked earlier about, I get a lot of experience seeing what cities are doing wrong. And I think one thing I see sometimes is city attorneys sort of interjecting and trying to steer decisions and maybe taking a too involved
Approach.
role in the decisions for someone who actually doesn't have a vote. And I think our role would only be to give legal advice and only steer decisions to the extent that we think they would have a negative impact on the city, rather than to try to guide, a certain rezoning decision one way.
And I have seen that as someone who was at a city council meeting. Attorneys speak up when they thought the decision might have been not a procedural issue, but an actual
Really?
decision. Take something on the record in that way. Lawsuit would have been filed with or without that being said, but.
Absolutely. Okay, Mr. Clark.
How do you ensure that the city is protected in agreements with developers?
I mean, I think that's all in the drafting. I mean, I think you have to try to anticipate to a reasonable extent what everything could go wrong. I mean, I guess that's what transactional attorneys do. That's why contracts get longer and longer, is to try to think out every situation in which it could go wrong and have that addressed and make sure that your client is protected. I mean, from that end, I hope my developer clients aren't listening. I've certainly been part of a lot of those agreements and seen a lot of them happen. So I kind of have a pretty good idea of how developers operate and how they think. Now, of course, I wouldn't be representing, we wouldn't be, if we were hired for this position, that would basically take us out of any representation involving development in Tontitown. But notwithstanding, it's drafting, and then, pretty much our firm focuses pretty heavily on real estate development. So we're helping draft those agreements when they're with cities. We're helping helping clients to draft those agreements when it's one developer to another, developer to a neighbor. So, I mean, we're just a real estate development heavy firm. So, drafting agreements that protect the city is something I feel pretty confident in.
I think also, sometimes we see lawyers treat municipal clients a little differently than they do other clients, and I think that's a mistake. I think if you are a zealous advocate for the municipality the same way you would be for a client, you're going to anticipate the kind of problems that might come up, and you're going to.
And then the second part of that question, has your firm ever sued a city with a developer contractor as a client?
Have we?
So I don't want to definitively say no, but I can't think of one. There have been many times where I have wanted to, and we have decided not to, because we have done so much land use and planning work. Before Mr. Kellstrom was with us, Bill Watkins was heavily involved in land use and planning work. Saw our job as do the best we can to try to get whatever was approved, and then refer it out if somebody thought they'd been wronged and needed to sue a city. He's talked me out of filing lawsuits against not Tontitown specifically, but other cities a lot of times, and I can't think of one that we filed. Been there 15 years, and I can't think of one.
I think there's another component to that is also that if zoning decisions are just, they're really hard to beat. It's really easy for a city to defend those, especially if they're, if the proper precautions have been taken on the city's part. So that goes into it too, is that when you make those zoning decisions right, it's hard to sue on them. And then, as Andrew said, it's hard for us to file a lawsuit against a city and then come back next Tuesday and, hey guys, now I'm fighting you over here, but let's be buddies at the same time right here. So
That would be a conflict. Okay.
All right.
Mr. Burris.
Thank you. First off, thanks for being here. Hope you had a good weekend, and thanks for starting the month with us. I wanted to ask a few questions specifically regarding your municipal experience. I know you've had some, especially with Benton County. But what experiences have you had with cities specifically on either side of your equation that would benefit us?
I'll start. Okay. I served on the Rogers Board of Adjustments for quite a while, and did so at a time when change going on, changes in the code and changes in the way Rogers.
And they act the way that our planning commission acts, if I understand that correctly, or no?
No, it's a lower level than the actual planning commission. It is.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for correcting me.
But, so I've been involved from a participation standpoint. Most of our involvement with that has, as Mr. Gilman, representing applicants. We routinely have been double booked on Tuesdays because one. I've seen almost everything there is to see from this side. Our experience from that side is really just my involvement in others and our representation of the Benton County.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Kelsey, if you go wait just a minute. So specifically, I understand that. I appreciate that. So being on that side and doing the adjustment work, how in that does that benefit us? Because we're trying to put you on the other side here. So how do you translate that?
I think that's related to the previous question of have we ever sued a city? I think every time I've ever sat out here and thought, that's not defensible. Here's what they did wrong. Prepared us to see those kinds of issues, help you identify those kinds of issues. I think volume is best thing for experience. And I think short of sitting in that chair right there, sitting out here and seeing it every Tuesday is, we can't point to any time we've sat in that chair other than the Benton County Planning Commission. But we have sat in more planning commission meetings and more city council meetings.
Okay, so with that said, you said you're often double booked on Tuesday night.
I don't do that.
You don't do that,
That's
okay.
why if we take this position, I'd be the one sitting there because he will every Tuesday, some other municipality along with.
So we shouldn't fall in love with you is what he's saying, Will.
Well, and I'd hope you'd fall in love with both of us. But that was a critical component of the deal. When I saw that there was a job posting for this, my first question was to go to Andrew and say, are you available every Tuesday night? And so that was, we wouldn't be sitting here if he wasn't willing to do that.
I do think for most things that come up outside of meetings, Mr. Kellstrom would be your best resource. He's the one with more planning experience than anybody I know. He's the one that deals with day-to-day operations. So I think we have different values. Have the ability to trade off when necessary, but
So one of the things you said earlier, which I understand, that we can have somebody sitting in that chair. I have children as well, and I recognize and appreciate that you're going to put that above us. I'm okay with that. I think that's more important. But when you say we've got young associates eager to learn, that's one of those things that makes my brain hurt just a skosh, because I really don't want to be the training ground for your young associates. But what happens if we're in a meeting and one of those young associates is here and they don't have an answer to a question that we need?
yeah, we have one young associate, and I do not anticipate that she would be the one first up to cover if we had several emergencies compiled on top of each other. I suspect if I had an emergency, an associate to cover whatever planning matter he had in Springdale or Springdale.
Okay.
The other associates that I mentioned, one of them is 70 years old and has been doing planning work for his entire career. The other is had her law license for approximately 10 years and has a fair amount of city government experience already. So I think what I intended to say was that they're eager to get access to this kind of work. I don't think they have.
And are those either those Mr. Watkins or Mr. Boyer?
Mr. Watkins is the first reference I made. Caitlin Gibbs is the assistant.
Good. So one of the areas where I'm just a little bit nervous is the fact that you have so much experience. It's a sort of a double-edged sword. You have so much experience with the other side, with developers. And in my personal opinion, well before any of us were here, there have been a lot of decisions made in Tontitown, and frankly, many made since we've all been here, that haven't been the best decision for Tontitown. I believe we've made a lot of decisions that are really good for developers and not so many that are really good for Tontitown. So part of my concern is, how often are you going to have a conflict, especially if you have so many developers that you work with? And then how can, and maybe this benefits us, how can we know that when you're on this side of the equation going after a developer that you don't think more like a developer instead of more like a city?
I mean, we have a conflict under our rules of ethics when we are representing two sides at the same time against each other. So if we were accepted for this role, I wouldn't be accepting any clients for any projects in Tontitown, and they would just, anyone that I happen to know or have previously done work for, it wouldn't be a conflict, and they just have to understand, if you do anything in Tontitown, I ain't helping you. Secondly,
So you don't mind going against a former client, developer, okay.
Not at all. I mean, I think that's part of the job. I represent developers. I'd also like to represent you guys. So I think that's something that's inherent in this. Secondly, making sure that bad decisions are not made for developers. I mean, that's simple to me. If we were hired, you would be our client. We'd be looking for the best deal for y'all. We would be advising you as to the pros and cons of each agreement. If you guys want to give a good deal to a developer because it's something that's good for the city and it's something you want, that's certainly fine. I think at the same time, with any other client, I would tell them, if you want to do this, that's great, but I think you need to understand, here's where it could all go wrong. And I mean, I think that I'd be treating y'all the exact same as I would with any other client.
And in the middle of that, if we want to do something, as you put it, that's beneficial for a particular developer because we want to work with them, how do we keep that from being arbitrary and capricious? We don't need the long answer, but what's the short answer?
I mean, I think you have to do it on fair and reasonable terms that are not unreasonably burdensome or harmful to the city. I mean, giving a fair or friendly deal to a developer does not have to be. I mean, you can give. I'm doing a contract for a guy right now that's selling land to his neighbor, and he's giving him a sweetheart deal just cause. I mean, there's so it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be an instance where you're showing special treatment or anything like that in order to give someone an easy or reasonable deal.
I think to answer your, how do you think like a city instead of thinking like a developer question, I think diversity of representation is very useful in my practice. In my litigation practice, I've done a lot of construction work. I've had a lot of litigation files where I represent a builder. I've had a lot of litigation files where I represent the customer. And I think seeing both sides of it helps you, no matter which side you're on. I think people who just do one thing, who just represent this side of any two-sided issue, can lose sight of what the other side's anticipating or what the other side's priorities might be. And I think in any, whether we're talking about a negotiation or I think knowing what's important to the other side and knowing what the other side might be thinking is.
I mean, I think I can give you another example of kind of what I was going on earlier. You can, in Fayetteville, for example, they have this new park and they'd like to see certain development there. And they entered into a deal with a developer where you have X number of years to get something built that we like and we approve of. And they gave him a lot of time to do that. But on the flip side, if he doesn't do it, he loses the land plus 10 years of appreciation. It reverts back to the city for free. So, I mean, that's if you can give friendlier terms with harsher penalties if they don't work out, if that makes sense. Sorry, I felt like I rambled a little bit on that.
No,
response.
Yeah, that was good.
I was hoping to give something a little more.
I think all that was fine. Thank you. So did somebody from the city approach you guys and say, hey, throw your hat in the ring here, or what prompted you to want to do this?
I ran into Justin Eichman, just happened to see him at a Fayetteville meeting, and he told me that you guys were looking for a new city attorney. And I've been interested in municipal work for my whole career. That's most of what I do, and I've always wanted to do municipal work, but it's kind of had the challenge of the Tuesday night thing. So when the opportunity came up and me and Andrew reached an agreement, I'm very excited to throw my hat in.
Good. So then do you, either of you, and I suspect the answer is no, but if you could sort of walk me through how you would do it. Do either of you have any experience with ordinances or resolutions, drafting them? And if not, how do you get there?
Short answer is yes.
Okay.
There are municipalities that when we show up for something that we've requested require us to draft our own ordinance.
Okay.
So we've done
Great.
a fair amount of our representation of. The second is, I think, more repetitive to what we've already talked about, but it's about knowing what's gone wrong before. It's about seeing what other cities have done, or frankly, what this city has done in the past that has resulted in problems how do you make sure you're precise but also careful?
We have also drafted ordinances and submitted them to the city, proposed them, proposed code changes where it makes sense. I have participated in code revisions where I've been asked just by cities that know me because I'm in front of them so often. So, and I certainly see ordinances all the time that I kind of wish they didn't say that. And I'm pretty good at pointing out problems in them before they come up. Fayetteville just passed one about 6 months ago that I pretty well told them, y'all are going to have this problem when you pass this, and lo and behold, 6 months later, it's created issues. So I think I have a fairly keen eye for drafting ordinances and resolutions that make sense, don't cause problems, and are enforceable.
Okay, thanks. And then tell me about your experience with water and sewer infrastructure agreements. The big smile. We'll start with you, Andrew.
That's limited. It has been for users. Most of our work on that has been representing individual property owners or individuals. Have spent a considerable amount of time on that side of the issue, especially in Rogers, wrangling with same answer. Our experience with that is primarily based on what we've seen.
I think, on the other side of the coin, like with the planning stuff, where we'd be looking to make sure that the agreements make sense, are enforceable, and don't have any unintended backlash, but while leaving the substantive aspects of it to the people who know what they're doing. I think we'd be doing the same with your public works director or with your water and sewer committee or whoever the people are that are charged with making those decisions. I think we would defer to them on the expertise with that, and then we would make sure that the agreement checks out and does what it's supposed to and protects you all.
Thank you. I think this is probably my last question. I'll use myself as an example. I'm the only member of this particular board that's also in city council. And sometimes on city council, we just want what we want. And the idea behind that is, well, you guys can make it all right, right? Right. So okay, maybe we end up getting sued for that thing, but what happens then? Or something, right? I know that that's one of those things that should make your eyes go a little bigger. But I guess my question in the midst of this is, what happens if a council member, the mayor, one of us up here that you have to work with, just go, no, I just don't like that advice, and choose not to take it?
I mean, we have clients that don't listen to our advice all day, every day. So, I mean, all we can do is explain what the law is, explain how to not break it or how to properly set yourself up to defend a decision. And then past that, it's up to y'all. Attorneys render advice. I don't think Andrew or I are going to throw ourselves across the table and stop y'all from voting on something if you're determined.
You won't take the polenta schmear to save us.
No. We will not physically throw ourselves across the table.
Thank you.
I think we are better than a lot of attorneys at explaining, okay, I see that you're not listening to me, but here's what comes next. Here's where this goes from here. I think, we've looked at the court files. We know what's going on. I think one of our primary goals would be to see you get sued. I think that's just a matter of communication and a matter of explaining, okay, I know you don't like my advice, but here's why my advice matters. What comes after this? I don't take it well when my clients don't follow my advice, and I'm perhaps not the nicest in response to that. But I think it's important that, you have to know why I gave you that advice. Now, you can't do that from that chair. You can't sit up there and say, okay, he's going to sue you, and here's what his arguments are going to be, because then you just get him a lawsuit. But there are ways to avoid that.
We've had that happen too. Okay.
There's also, if you insist on not following my advice, do me a favor and do A, B, and C so we can make the lawsuit end a little bit quicker. That's another part of our jobs.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your answers.
going on off of that, how do you set your boundaries around political pressure or attempts to influence your legal advice?
Great question.
So the only direct experience I have with that is my work for the Benton County Planning Board. There were several instances in which justices of the peace, as Mr. want what they want, not necessarily what I think the right path is. And I'm not prepared to say that I'm immune from political pressure. I think everybody can be changing our advice because somebody didn't like it or wanted to apply political pressure. Good city attorney does not worry about the political pressure. I think our job is to give you and while we're here, and if I'm not listening to political pressure to lose that position, that's on you.
All right. How quickly can we expect responses to routine and urgent questions?
I think as long as we have an effective communication plan, we know how to present those questions and who to present them to. Extremely responsive. Things that are urgent and require immediate attention would get think we've got a standard fee agreement that we use with our private clients that says we'll phone call within 24 hours. But I don't think it goes beyond 24 hours very often, even with those, and those are not. Got 5 lawyers. We've got a staff who knows how to direct. Question is, Bill's got to answer it, and he's the only one that can answer it. Then I think you've got office. But if our communication path allows effort,
part of the responsiveness that you're going to get out of our firm is you're going to get a natural benefit from us not being a one-man operation. You're going to have 5 attorneys who are possibly able to answer your question. I think a lot of the general inquiries are going to be directed at me for litigation questions, and for active litigation, you'll have Andrew. And like Andrew said earlier, it's possible that we might just assign FOIA requests to one person. And that way you don't have me with a litigation question, a zoning question, and a FOIA question all stacked up in one email inbox. I think the delegation of those responsibilities and being able to spread them out amongst multiple people is going to, you're just naturally going to have more
The
responsibility.
ability to actually be able to do that. That's
Yes.
great. That is great. I'm sure you've heard all of the things that's been going on in Tontitown, if you've talked to Justin. Knowing everything that has been going on, why do you want to be Tontitown City Attorney?
I'm just interested in municipal work. I've a lot of people ask me how I sit through the meetings every Tuesday with everything that goes on in them. I kind of find it fun. I think it's interesting. I'm, drafting zoning legislation is something that's interesting and fun to me. So it's an area of the law that I'm interested in. Again, I've always wanted to be on the municipal side of it. So at least from my standpoint, it's just an area of law that I'm interested in.
I've not talked to Mr. Eichmann. My knowledge of what's going on in Tontitown has come from news.
The newspaper.
And court records. I've seen publication. This job is often thankless. You know, you find somebody on their worst day, you do the best thing you can to help them, and if it's not exactly what they want, I really enjoy feeling like I think Tontitown, you know, obviously you know what you've got here. You know the development that's gone on, you know the development that's coming, you know the growth. But I think there's an opportunity for us to help Tontitown. I think Tontitown can avoid being sued.
Do you have any questions for us?
I didn't come with any preloaded questions, and the questions that have come up while we've been here we've talked them out. I think talking to Mr. Eichmann, there was some question as to what portions of the job his firm might continue to do versus what might be up for discussion, but I think those questions can come as you make your decision.
Panel, does anyone else have any?
I actually have a question, going back to the water and sewer infrastructure agreements. Hardest things to do nowadays is acquire easements. You have experience with easement acquisition and or condemnation?
Yeah, a bunch. There's a lot of it going on right now, so I probably have 7 or 8 clients that I'm assisting with condemnations or easement acquisitions right now. So again, as with everything else, a lot from the other side. I mean, I think that there are certainly things that I think cities could do to get them done quicker. So, I mean, we're certainly experienced with it, and I certainly have things that I think could speed up the process and make it more efficient.
So you would handle those yourself?
Well, I mean, I think it just depends. I mean, so I would certainly be writing up all of the easements. A lot of cities hire brokers to do it. There's a couple different ones in town that offer those services where they basically act like a real estate agent, and they go out and they make those offers to people and negotiate them and then come back for approval and get them done. So I think that's up to you. I think if it were up to me, I would recommend that approach.
Normally, our engineer will write the easements, and we do use a third party to acquire those. Really, the help we need on those are the ones that go to condemnation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm growing tired of saying, yeah, we do that all the time for the other side. But, you know, we have a lot on condemnation cases, and we have seen what cities have done that, you know, either delay a project or make a project cost more than it should have on acquisition matters. And I think the tough reality is sometimes you have to pick. You want to do it. That's not a decision for us to make, but I think that our experience would be helpful in having.
Follow up on that if I could. We're getting ready to do a highway widening project through town. Have you all dealt with RDOT on?
Dealing with them right now.
So sorry.
Yeah, and the same with everything else. Our RDOT work has been for property owners.
Great, thank you.
And in that, when you're on the other side of that condemnation case, how successful have you been?
I have not had to try one. It takes some time for me to sit here and become less frequently tried, in my experience. I think it's a good thing. I mean,
Meaning that you're getting to a point where all parties feel it's a win-win?
eventually we get to an agreed upon resolution. I think there are lawyers in Northwest Arkansas. The fact that those are becoming less. So success by wins and losses would be hard to measure because often let the jury make the decision. I'd like for the property owner and
That was my next question. How often do you want to go the trial?
I mean, I would, for condemnation cases, my preference would be that they never go to trial. I mean, that's, if they're going to trial, that's kind of a sign that at least one party's being difficult. If you can't come together to a reasonable valuation of the land, or even a reasonable fix, if you're taking down a row of privacy trees, get some privacy trees to replace it. So my preference would be for those to never be litigated, because at the end of the day, there's only one right answer, and it's the fair market value of the land. So we ought to be able to figure that out without a judge telling us.
There are property owners who will be unreasonable, and it is not difficult for them to find a lawyer who will encourage them. I don't think hire to see the parties work it out should result in outrageous payments to property owners. I think you have to try. Calculate it.
Thank you. If you were on our side, what would you be concerned about with the two of you? Watkins, Boyer, Gray, and Curry.
I think we've talked around it the whole time we've been here. We do not have somebody that I can say sat in that chair for 10 years. Not a lot of that going around. The person who has been here has more experience in that than anybody else does. Some good, some bad. So I think if I were in your shoes, that would make me nervous, but I would also be aware of the reality that not a lot of that out there. To find somebody who's your side requires somebody that comes with some baggage and somebody who either you've dealt with before or your neighbors have dealt with and you already have some other concerns. That's really all I've got for you. I think beyond that, we've got between lawyers in the office.
I mean, so with that, there will occasionally be something during a meeting where if we haven't been doing this for 20 years, there may be something that comes up occasionally where we have to say, I don't know, I'm going to have to go do some research and look that up. But with that, what I can assure you is that you won't get a made up answer that ain't true. And there are some city attorneys around here, unfortunately, that just kind of spout off something made up to make it seem like they know what they're doing. You're not going to get that from us.
I prefer the right answer to the quick answer. Thanks.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in today. You have something
One
else?
quick,
I'm sorry.
yeah. For me, I don't try to bother you guys a whole lot with my side of things, but typical things that I come across and deal with, employment law. You guys have experience, anything in that area?
You referenced Mr. Boyer, that's still on our website as of counsel. He's not in the office anymore. He's retired, but when Mr. Boyer retired, he left a large collection of corporate clients that forced us, the rest of us, to get tuned in to employment law. We've not done, this is the one situation that we've only done it from your side. Don't do employment law from the corporate scale. We've done there's going to be some of that where you pick up the phone and the answer is, I think I know the answer to that, but it needs to be the right answer.
That kind of goes into another question that was asked earlier on the responsiveness and the communication plan. I'm really one that if I like the point of contact, I like the phone number to burn the call to and ask the question to. I understand it's not always expect the answer. Is that obviously situation dictate on what the question is, but you two are the main two. That would be anything with the city. If I'm picking up the phone to ask something, I'm calling one of you two essentially.
Yes. We've got one central office line that gets to both of us, and we both carry office cell phones that have in that number, but I'd certainly want the people who need
Any experience with policies or any?
Yeah, but again, like the previous questions from the other side, I've done a lot of cross-examining police officers about whether or not they followed their own office policy, and I think review purposes, I can't think of any time where a law enforcement agency has ever asked. Here with them, but we've not tried to check them for compliance.
Comfortability on, like, we're wrapping up doing a review internally and updating and changing our policies. Comfortability on reviewing that and finding the holes and
I feel comfortable with that. I think we'd probably have at least 2 sets of eyes on it. I'd want to see it for issues that I've mentioned to you has extensive criminal defense background in a position that was not flashy trial attorney stuff, but back office, doing what we're talking about, checking law enforcement on their policies and procedures. So
Good. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in today. I really appreciate it. Of course, we've got a couple more interviews, and we'll be getting back in touch with you probably later on this week.
okay. If you have any follow-up questions, either of us are happy to talk to you.
All right, thank you, sir. I do appreciate it. Thank you,
Good to
guys.
meet all y'all.
I just realized that.
I remember that, yeah. Yeah, I forget what that was on, but.
I can't remember. I can't remember either.
Yeah.
But
Didn't fill yours out as we were going.